Hello, my name is Brian Stevenson. I am the host of the Cyber Chronicles. This week we have a crazy episode. Things are just going out just insane around cybersecurity. We're going to talk about why firms are paying hackers that promised solutions. We're going to talk about Hathway again, the Chinese tech company, the giant, and what they're up to. We're going to talk about hackers breach Stack Overflow. If you're not familiar with them, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about one of the most dangerous apps that you can be using right now called WhatsApp from Facebook. Surprise, surprise. And we're going to talk about what you need to know if you're going to e-transfer money before you get ripped off. So let's get started. Okay, our first article comes to us by Proplexia.org. I don't know what the hell that is, but this week's weird, man. All the cybersecurity most shared articles across the internet came from places that we don't normally see. But this article talks about the trade secret. Firms that promised high-tech ransomware solutions almost always pay the hackers. So, as ransomware attacks cripple businesses and law firm enforcement agencies, two data recovery companies paid ransom and then charged their victims extra. So basically what it talks about here is these companies, these firms, promise companies to help them with their ransomware, and all they end up doing is paying the ransomware and then charging a premium on top of that for the company, saying that they solved their problem. So interesting article. I'm not going to name the companies because I do not want to be in a lawsuit. But it's we're going to have a link down below. Interesting article, though. So buyer beware. If you're paying someone to help you with your ransomware, you want to make sure that they're actually getting rid of it and not actually paying the people to, the Bitcoins. Anyway, let's get to the next article. Okay, our next article, that sounded a little loud, is about Hathway again. And if you're using Hathway technology, just buyer beware, because we're seeing articles that come out almost every other week about some cybersecurity risks or some people find. Hathway has a secret backdoor into major European telecom firms, a spy agency reported, and this is according to The Independent. Chinese tech company Hathway reported a hidden backdoor into the network of an unarmed but major Dutch telecom company, allowing access to all of its customer information. Hathway said it was, quote-unquote, surprised by the report and declined to comment as its core allegations because they came from an anonymous source. Again, just if you're using Hathway, your U.S. European company, just buyer beware. There's just so many allegations going on right now. I don't know if it's a smear campaign, but usually with this much smoke, there is a fire. And so, again, I'd be careful. So let's move on to our next article. Okay, our next article comes to us from TechWorm. The worms that are hackers breach Stack Overflow Q&A platform and compromise users' data. If you're not familiar with StackFlow, what it is, it's a popular question and answer site for programmers, technology people, usually professionals. And over the weekend, there was an attack on Stack Overflow. They confirmed that some level of production access was gained on May 11th, according to Mary Ferguson, Vice President of Engineering, in a security update dated May 16th. We discovered and investigated the extent of the access and are addressing all known vulnerabilities. Well, that's good. We have identified the breach of customers' user data or user data. Well, that's good, too. I mean, okay, you've identified that I've been robbed of my personal information, so what are you going to do now? Back then, the investigation of the breach is still going on. So this is from, the nice thing is, to me at least, is they announced this thing very fast. I mean, they announced it on May 11th. It's only May 18th now. So, it's not like a lot of other companies that take 3-4 months. At least we're getting better on announcing to the public that they've been breached. So we'll have the article listed down below. Interesting article. If you use Stack Overflow, buyer beware. Let's move on to our next article. Okay, this article could have been number one, actually, because there's so many people talking about it. But the WhatsApp security breach has targeted human rights organizations. A lot of people had this article, or there was quite a few people that had it listed. There's Discovery, Reuters, I've got The Guardian here, but It's a Facebook app, if you're not familiar with it, that allows people to communicate with each other. It's used by about it's used by 1.5 billion people monthly. It's touted as a high level of security and privacy, with messages on its platform being encrypted end to end, and what app and third parties cannot listen or read. But their company says it is still investigating a breach where a select number of users were targeted through a vulnerability by an advanced cyber actor. So, again, if you're using WhatsApp, first of all, why are you using that in any sort of corporate or government scenario? And just be aware that when you see these types of apps and they're free like this, more than likely there's a significant risk. All right, I got all the paper going around here. There's a significant risk of using those things, especially from large companies. It's kind of a bullseye for cyber attack characters. So let's move on to our next article. Okay, this article is shared just a tremendous amount across the internet. It's from our where is this from? This is from the Canadian News, CBC, Canadian News. RBC customers out of pocket after fraud. RBC, as you probably know, is one of the largest banks, Royal Bank, I think it's called, Royal Bank in Canada. So it's one of the largest banks in Canada. And they talk about e-transfers, and they talk about e-transfers where people have been defrauded via hacking, and the bank is not, in a lot of cases, covering their losses. They're saying, hey, it's due to user issues, it's not due to us. So the largest thing in this article, and I'm going to go through this, let me page through this. We had a couple of people, they talk about $7,000 loss. They're going to talk about, they're upset in the fact that they thought that they were working with a secure system. They are working with a secure system, but they can't, they didn't require passwords that were very difficult. In some cases, they had the passcode or passphrase was, what was your favorite Beatle? Well, you have a 1 out of 4 chance of guessing that before, being kicked out. And a lot of times you have 3 times before you can try to use those passcodes, which means essentially you've got about a 75% chance of breaking in. So they talk about how to guard against e-transfer fraud. This should not surprise anybody. Make a difficult password. Yeah, don't use password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which we talked about last week, which is still used by a lot of people. Stop it. Don't share your password. Well, yeah. Use 1 password per website. I know this is difficult, and I have the same issue, but use a password database. And they talk about this too. Use a password database so you can store all your passwords in one place, but don't use your same password. One site gets compromised, all of your information has to be changed. And then use filters to protect viruses and spyware. Okay, well, viruses, come on. And then periodically check your address on haveibenpawned.com. It's a great website. You can put your email in there, and it'll tell you if you're in a database that's been compromised before. It doesn't tell you that you've been compromised, just that your email is in a database that has been compromised. So very interesting thing to check out. So I thought it was a good article, real basic stuff, but some of you guys are still using simple passwords. So that's it for this week's episode. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please hit the subscribe button. And I'd like to do a couple shout outs. David, I understand that you ran into one of my colleagues at one of our trade shows that we go to, Secure 360. Thank you for listening. I also like to do a shout out for Richie. Hey, Richie, if you're listening, thanks so much for the friendship, and I look forward to many more days to come. So with that, that's our episode. Take care and be safe.